Hi everybody, welcome back. Another technical demo around JBoss EAP with the Git SSH repository. My name is Daniel O. Today I'm going to showcase how to use SSH credentials to connect to remote Git SSH repository based on JBoss EAP 740 beta. Let's get started. So here's my local machine. I already installed JBoss EAP 7.4 beta. As you see, I already have a bunch of standalone configuration, for example, standalone full and HA and the load balancer. And there are a bunch of the role and user properties here. So let's try to run JBoss EAP without any particular configuration with some by default configuration. So it takes a few seconds to start up, and as you see, there are 7.0 beta. JBoss EAP is running on my local machine. And then when you go to admin console, you can see there's no access credential for you because you have to create the management of RAM and the role, but also credential to access admin console. We're gonna do that just a bit later. Don't worry about it. Okay, I'm gonna stop the running EAP instance on my local, and then we're gonna generate SSH key as in using Electron tool because we're going to use that key pair to access the remote Git SSH repository. So using Electron tool, we can create CS example CS file as a credential store. And as you see, here is the CS underscore example CS file, which is credential store. We will store the key pair based on specific algorithm such as RSA. So next step, we're going to use the Electron tool once again to create a key pair with the algorithm RHS with specific size. And then once you create a key pair, and then we just print out the public key based on that. So here is SH RSA with the prefix, our public key. We're going to copy from this public key to our working Git repository for sharing the configuration with my developer team. When you go to Git repository, you can go to setting and SSH GPG key, and then you can copy and paste. You can paste the key here and save and add a new key. Actually, I already did for ahead of time. So go back to here. You can find my SS key here. All right. So next step, I'm going to create the widefly configuration, which enable developer to just create a credential store. The value should be absolute pass or absolute pass. So I just change that. In the next step, I'm going to run JBoss EAP once again with that Git option. For example, Git report, which I needed to share in the pooling configuration. Here's my Git configuration directory. As you see, there are a bunch of the property, and also I created some test file like the text file, and then I'm gonna manage with the property. I'm gonna add one credential like with my name, just access admin console by default. So and then copy from SSH protocol, and then just copy the remote URL and then paste it here, and then we're going to use the main report and branch. And also the last step is git auth. So we just we just create the wideply configuration, which will report to our credential store that I created based on Electron 2 script file. Okay, it's pretty good. And then just return and to run the JBoss EAP. It really takes a few seconds when I start the JBoss EAP. And then when you take a look at that EAP server logs, you can find that all configuration pulled from a remote Git repository. So EAP just started. Let's just try to go up to find that part. Okay, here's the configuration history managed through Git, which means we all pull down the configuration from remote Git repository, just I saw you. So go back to another terminal console and take a look at that. The standalone configuration, make sure everything is pulled down. The test file is here. Just take a look at that. The actual content test file. HTTP authentication here, just like we see in Git repository. All right, pretty cool. And also, let's try to one more time to access admin console. We can log in with the Daniel O because the new configuration, share the configuration in the project already have the user credential for management. So this is the way how to connect to Git repository using SSH credential. So another good feature of JBoss EAP using JBoss CLI command line, we can snapshot any changes from your configuration directory and then push that change it to remote to up cluster. So in order to do that, let's try to make some change here configuration directory. So let's try to remove the one of unnecessary configuration, for example, standalone full HASML. I'm not going to use that. And go back to JBoss CLI. We don't have any snapshot at this moment. Let's try to take the new snapshot using take-snapshot and a name with the command is the mandatory argument. So name should be any word you want to need, like a snapshot one, and command, for example, the remove configuration because I just delete the one of the configuration XML file. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna just make sure to release the snapshot. We got a one snapshot, and then now we're gonna push this, change it to Git repository using publish configuration, and I just put in the location with my Git repository URL based on SSH protocol. So Git protocol, and then just click on that, and then just a success. So this is a good feature for developer. They don't need to use Git CLI for operator as well. So we just change the configuration and share the configuration. Now we're going to share this configuration to another developer with another team, which we were prepared to use cloud native environment for application development. So Red Hat provides developer sandbox for any developer for free. So in order to use that, you just need to Git repository with the application include the dev file as you saw. And with that Git repository, you can just spin up code-ready workspace directly. You don't need to go to Operation Dev console. Just code-ready workspace URL plus Git repository, which has to include the dev file as a root directory. So as you see the log, our code-ready workspace just found the dev file. And then there are a bunch of stuff just happening, the pull image and then try to run code-ready workspace. Actually, this code-ready workspace pod includes a multiple container, for example, JBoss EAP, something like that. So in the meantime, let's try to a little bit take a look at that. Dev file, how to implement. So in dev file, we're going to use the kitchen sink enterprise Java application example. You can actually use the G file format or just report the Git repository. And then here's one of the component I want to use, the Docker image, which pull down your JBoss 7.0 beta image, and then you can define specific environment like a Java option or a Maven option. And more important thing is we needed to pass down JBoss EAP parameters such as we used in local environment like a Git report, Git branch, and Git auth. As you say, you can actually report to Git auth file using URL, or you can use a file protocol we did in a local environment. All right. So pretty good, I think. Let's try to go back to code-ready workspace to take a look at that. And one more thing, you can actually also define the commands as well. So go back to code-ready workspace. It's already now it's started. Okay, and then your code-ready workspace started, and some port is listening. And then when you go to the Explorer Navigator, you can find your application is already imported. So as a developer, you just start the application developer. Some developer operator prefer to develop or managing EAP configuration or a specific configuration on local machine or install-based environment. But some of the more try to use cloud-native environment such as code-ready workspace. And then we're gonna just use a wizard tool, just open a new terminal, and then just try to confirm which version of EAP we are using and running on inside the core ready workspace. So using env and grab JBoss variable, and you can find the JBoss EAP version 740.beta, and then go to standalone configuration to make sure every configuration are pulled down from Git repository. As you see, there is no full-h.xml, and also test.txt file is existing here, and then you can find the content test SSH authentication, just like we saw in the Git repository as well as the local environment. Okay, so this EAP running on inside the core ready workspace, we can access endpoint, but the admin console is not available in OpenShift place because this developer sandbox running on OpenShift. So let's try to deploy this application. You can actually manually build and copy a WAR file, just like you do in the local machine, but you can actually deploy using hot deploy strategy on EAP. This is one of the beauty of the EAP capability. So our EAP is actually running, and when you go to OpenShift Developer Console, you can find the EAP log file, and then the EAP 7.0 beta is running. Okay, go back to the core ready workspace, the build done and deploy done on top of the running JBoss EAP instance as a container, and then let's make sure deploy is finished. When you go to standalone deployment directory, you can find WAR file is deployed. So go back to credentials layer and just take a look at this example application. Welcome to JBoss, and this is just simple kitchen sink application like a CURD capability. I'm gonna put in my name and an email address, and I'm gonna put in my fake phone number, and then just register it. And now we got a new record here, and then you can find the detail using JSON format result based on RESTful UI. And you can click on the another RESTful UI like REST members. Okay, pretty cool. So one last thing, if you want to take a look at that the dev file on core ready workspace, you can click on workspace and just go to dev file. You can find exactly the same dev file we defined in Git repository. So this is a really cool and nice way to develop the same application with shared configuration from local environment, from cloud environment using JBoss EAP 7.4 with the core ready workspace on developer sandbox. Thanks for watching. Have a good rest of the day.